All right, so today we're going to be talking about a new report about Xbox Game Pass. Now, as a consumer, I enjoy Xbox Game Pass. I'm a cheap person. It's nice to pay a monthly subscription service and get a whole bunch of games added in there that I have the ability to play at any point in time. Now, there's always been that sort of back end situation with what about developers that don't put their games on Xbox Game Pass, but that put their games onto Xbox? Many people like to act like, they're genuinely concerned about that. But I really feel like at the end of the day, people are more so concerned about what their dollar is doing rather than what a company's dollar is doing. I mean, it's just human nature. There's nothing wrong with admitting that. You could still care about the developer, but at the end of the day, as a consumer, your number one interest should be in yourself. Well, we got a new report that came out about Xbox Game Pass, mostly about games that don't go onto Game Pass but are released onto Xbox. And it looks like everyone's fears are a bit confirmed with this. A lot of developers do not like Xbox Game Pass if their game is not going on there. So we're going to talk about this and take a look at it together and see if we can kind of come to some sort of middle ground. Hit that subscribe button if you are new. So this is an article done by Twisted Voxel. Developers claim Game Pass has caused a behavioral shift that has led to very few sales on Xbox. And I mean, that's kind of a long running joke. People don't buy games on Xbox because of Game Pass. And if it's not a game that's going on to Game Pass, a lot of people are going to look past it. Now, it's not a true blanket statement or anything like that. I buy some third-party games on my Xbox to play with my friends that, maybe don't go into Game Pass, but generally speaking, like, I'm kind of avoiding buying games on Xbox because of the fact that I like Game Pass. So, Skill Up associate Edward Tran recently had the opportunity to interview a series of anonymous game developers, and the overall takeaway regarding Xbox was that Game Pass has resulted in a behavioral shift that has led to very few sales on the platform. Scrolling on down here, the general sentiment among developers is that the existence of Xbox Game Pass has created a vicious cycle. One such developer released an award-winning title on Xbox more than 2 years ago after initially releasing on other platforms. I wonder what that game is. I bet some of you guys that are sleuths can figure that out in the comment section down below. What's a game that won a bunch of awards that came out 2 years later on Xbox? They mentioned that game sales on Xbox have been the weakest. It's a bit like trying to sell a DVD to someone who uses Netflix. Sure, some people still do that from time to time, but you're not targeting the right audience, they said. As for the challenges involved in porting to Xbox and its financially worth, another developer with a small team working on an indie game said that the difficulty of releasing games for Xbox console is low on the list of reasons not to consider the platform. They added that this is especially true in a world where Switch or Steam Deck is an optimization target. Meanwhile, one developer pointed towards the large number of Xbox configurations to tackle, namely Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and Windows PC. According to them, it isn't healthy for small indie game developers to port to 5 different hardware platforms. When it comes to indie titles, things aren't a whole lot better on Sony's side either. While PlayStation led ports led to better sales than Xbox, some still trailed significantly behind the PC and the Switch. According to one developer, it makes more sense to ship an indie title on Xbox and PlayStation sometime after launch, where they can strike a deal with either console maker for their respective subscription service. Doing so has become more of a necessity. Another developer said that if they release a game on Xbox without Game Pass, they miss out on the majority of the player base, which is essentially only playing games via subscription service. So obviously a lot to unpack here, and a lot of things that I kind of want to comment on with this, because I find it to be a very interesting conversation. Now, we know that if a game gets chosen for Game Pass, that company gets money up front. Microsoft will give companies money to put their games onto Game Pass to sort of offset the price, of people not buying the game. And we've seen that time and time again, and we'll continue to see Microsoft paying for games to go into Game Pass. But I find it very interesting how developers are just now sort of realizing that this is kind of a problematic thing from a business standpoint. From a consumer standpoint, I mean, I think we can all agree it's great, having this large library of games that you have access to at any point in time. You could do cloud streaming with them, whatever the case may be, however you prefer to play these games, you have that option. But it takes time and effort to create that sort of thing. And for a lot of companies that aren't approached with that Microsoft bag saying, hey, we want your game on Game Pass, like, what are they supposed to do? It does. I think anyone who says that, Game Pass doesn't create a culture of not wanting to purchase games is just fooling themselves. When was the last time, like, an Xbox game was like number one in sales in the NPD stuff? Like, it doesn't happen. And I'm not saying that that's your fault as a consumer, because it's not. It's not your fault. Why would you, if you're paying for Xbox Game Pass, why would you go out and buy the game when it's already on there? Like, you're just wasting your money, unless it's a game or a franchise that you're a big fan of. Maybe you want a collector's edition or something of that, then that kind of makes sense. But most people that have Game Pass are not like that. They are probably a bit of a younger demographic, the demographic that doesn't care about physical game sales or buying games or stuff like that. If you see, a new game for $70, but that game is in Game Pass, then yeah, you're not going to buy the game. But what does that do to the other companies who don't have Game Pass, who don't have that luxury? Is that potentially a reason why some third-party games, especially when we're talking about, Eastern games, Japanese games and stuff like that, a lot of them tend to skip on the Xbox? And people question why, like, oh, well, why is this coming out on Switch and PS5, but there's no Xbox version? That seems kind of weird. It's a bias. These companies are biased against Xbox, and it's like, no, they're businesses. And at the end of the day, you have to run your business in the best manner possible. And if you see a platform where people are not spending money, people are not wanting to put time and effort into buying games on a certain platform, if you're not going to at least break even on the platform, what's the point? And I do find it interesting, the multiple development systems that you have to keep in mind with this system as well. It's not like the PS5, where the PS5 is the PS5. Whether you buy a digital edition or a physical edition, doesn't matter. The PS5 is always going to work the same way as far as the technical specifications are concerned. Whereas with Xbox, there is a lot more nuance. There is a lot more variety to keep in mind with that. Is that worth a company's time and effort? Like, I think with all this stuff going on with Game Pass right now, all these sort of, I shouldn't say pushback, because it's not consumer pushback, it's company pushback. And you're starting to see it a bit more and more. But when Xbox is potentially going to be raising the price of Game Pass, how many people are going to be on board with that? I really feel like this Game Pass culture that Phil Spencer, who hasn't said a damn word about any of this stuff since all of this news has come out about Xbox recently, throwing Sarah Bond to the wolves. Real classy there, Phil. I just feel like, Phil Spencer created this culture, and now they don't necessarily know where to go with it. They don't necessarily know what to do with it and what's the next move, because at this point, it's not like you can get rid of Game Pass. You can't, because people are accustomed to it. I've grown accustomed to your face. No, but people are accustomed to Game Pass. That's probably one of the reasons why they're buying an Xbox. And if you take that away from them, what's the incentive for people to buy an Xbox? If you go back to a traditional business model where, yes, you can have a subscription service, but not everything goes in there, it's a slippery slope, man. When you look at the subscription service flatlining for video games, going down for, media, movies and TV and stuff like that, all these companies now coming together to make their deluxe editions of their streaming services. Like, at first it was cool, but what happened? Too much money got involved with it. Let me know in the comments section down below, though. What do you think about this situation? What do you think about developers essentially not being happy with Game Pass, because that means that people aren't buying their games if they come out on Xbox, and if they're not on Game Pass, they're probably not making any sort of money off of it. You know, because I think that's a very justifiable situation. I'll have a link to the Twisted Voxel right up in the comment section down below. If you guys want to check that out, go show them some love, because I just found this to be, you know, a very interesting topic, and something that Xbox is going to have to address at some point in time. Like, you can't just ignore this. It's literally an elephant in a room at this point in time. But how do you fix it? I don't know if you can. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.